Sup guys, just finished maxing out my Scylla not too long ago, and as promised, I'm going to be taking a look at just how good she is in this video. As I was leveling her, I noticed that her damage was quite a bit higher than expected, and I knew that her barrage numbers were very good, but of course, I can't tell how much of it will hit in practice. I began my testing in chapter 13, and I'm well aware that there's a huge AA differential between Harbin and Scylla, which could definitely skew the results, but AA damage isn't actually assigned to the ship that actually dealt the AA damage, but rather split amongst all of the ships in the fleet based on the square of their AA stats. For more information about how AA damage is calculated, you can check out the video in the description, which goes more into detail, and read the pinned comment as well. Taking a look at the equipments of the fleet, you can see that even if you have doubts about how AA is calculated, I gave an actual AA gun to Harbin, while I left Scylla's AA slot empty, so even if it worked as you would expect, it would not favor Scylla in any way. In the main fleet, I just used Argus because I was leveling her, and I used Ryuho and Vestal with severely gimped equips to keep the fleet alive. And now it's time to get into the results. I'll leave my chapter 14 test playing while I go over the numbers. As you can see here, I took note of their AA and tried to get them as close as possible. In these first set of tests, you can see that there's virtually no difference between the damage dealt by Scylla and Harbin. Yatsen obviously did less damage, but it's actually pretty decent considering how tanky she is. I did use 2+10 rainbow guns on her though, so your Yatsen might not have the same performance. This sample size leaves much to be desired, and there's also the possibility of Yatsen stealing too much damage and skewing the results in some way. So I continued the tests, but I swapped out Yatsen for San Juan, who I was leveling. San Juan pretty much deals negative damage, so we should be able to see some slightly different results here. For about half of these tests, I had Harbin in the tank slot and Scylla in the rear, and then the other half, I switched them around just in case the position affects the results in some way. And we can see that they're pretty much tied on everything except for 3-star BB fleets, in which Harbin managed to pull ahead by about 10%. This is expected though, since Scylla's barrage modifiers are not that good against heavier armors, while Harbin has very good torps. I also tried Scylla with a 76mm, which is the really fast destroyer gun to spam her barrage, and it almost looks like the results are swapped when compared to the 114mm results. I would probably just chalk it up to sample size though, but it does seem like the 76mm does ever so slightly more damage on average. Since you're entirely removing her gun damage and putting it all in barrage damage though, it can be a little bit less consistent. Overall, in chapter 13, I would definitely say that Scylla's surface damage actually keeps up with Harbin, which is very impressive. So as far as surface damage goes, she's probably in a different tier compared to San Diego. On top of that, she has enough AA to take care of your AA needs by herself pretty much, although it's not as good as San Diego's on that front. Oh, and just in case, I also tested her against Plymouth, and as you can see, Plymouth is definitely on a different level. Next I tested them in chapter 14.4, and all of the fights were with ammo. One significant thing to keep in mind is that when enemies are stealthed in chapter 14, aimed attacks such as main guns can't really find a target, so torpedoes and barrages are relatively better than guns in this environment. As you can see, the results once again are quite close, but Scylla seems to be doing quite a bit more against DD fleets, which could be due to her slightly higher anti-submarine stat, causing her base depth charge to do a little bit more damage against the submarines. Overall, her damage definitely surprised me in a positive way. She is a very good damage option for campaign stages, with reasonable bulk and enough AA to get you through the plain hell stages. A couple of things to keep in mind are the fact that she's very reliant on her barrages, so her damage won't be as good against single target bosses, and also it won't scale as well with equipment upgrades. For these tests, I used +10 equipment on both Harbin and Scylla, but if we were to put +13 weapons on both of them, then you would expect to see Harbin pull ahead a little more, since equipment upgrades don't affect the barrages in any way. This could be a good thing though if you're a newer player who doesn't have enough gold plates to upgrade your Vanguard equipment yet. And one last thing, not about Scylla. I feel like Kuibyshev didn't get the attention that she deserves, so I briefly tested her as well. Offensively, she has better stats than mains across the board, with a DD Aux gun, as opposed to mains' really underwhelming torps. Her buffs are better as well, And when you factor in the FP differential between the two, the damage of her timed barrage is pretty much the same as Main's 2 timed barrages combined. So in practice, you can see that their damage is extremely close, both at level 120 with almost the same AA stat, but Main's is Oath, while Kuibyshev is not, so if she was Oath, she would be higher across the board. On the defensive side, she does need a few heals from her yellow skill to be on the same level of bulkiness as Main's, but this shouldn't be a problem because if she doesn't proc her heal, then she's not taking much damage anyway. So as far as stat sticks go, Kuibyshev is top of the line and comparable to Main's in my opinion. And that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.